Hello world! Welcome and welcome back to the channel, where today's Draw and Talk session is extra special because it's half of a collaboration with my longtime friend 𝚤𝚘𝚎𝚎. So 2025 was basically the year both of us made our mangaka debut, with May currently working on her ongoing series Fable Forest Bakery, and me having completed my one-shot 𝚤𝚘𝚎. And with that in mind, we decided for our first collab to take a page of the other person's comic and redraw it in our own style. Make sure to stick around to the end of our videos where we show each other the redraws we did at the pages we chose. To increase the fun factor of this reveal, we decided to keep which specific page we will be drawing a secret from each other until we send our redraw, so I have no idea what page of 𝚤𝚘𝚎 May will be redrawing, but in my case, I ultimately chose to redraw page 14 of chapter 1 of Fable Forest Bakery, although page 11, page 13, and page 16 were close contenders as well. Given that 𝚤𝚘𝚎 is only 10 pages long in its entirety, I'm not sure if that makes May's job in selecting a page easier or harder, but either way I'm really looking forward to seeing how her version turns out, especially because the ways in which we approach art are on other ends of the spectrum. Our programs are different, our styles are different, the manga we pull out for inspiration and reference are all different. It, in my opinion, makes this Draw This in Your Style challenge a lot more rewarding because there's a lot of extra nuance to appreciate. So, the official synopsis for Fable Forest Bakery is as follows. Nike the Fox has made it her life goal to follow in her late grandfather's footsteps and become a great baker. Just when she seems to reach that dream, her baking career in the city comes to a sudden screeching halt. Down on her luck, Nike decides to open her own bakery to raise money with the aid of her grandfather's baking lessons and the recipe book he left behind. However, many of the ingredients in this book can only be found within Fable Forest. Not only are locals strictly forbidden to enter, but this forest is also rumored to be guarded by a fearsome monster. But what's the true identity of this monster? And what's really going on within these woods? Follow Nike's story as she works toward carrying on her family legacy, uncovering a world of secrets, and reclaiming her dream life. When this series was first announced in 2019, back in the Stone Ages when it was originally going under the title Honey Butter Bakery, I was locked in from the word go. I was like, oh yeah, we ride it done, baby! I promise this isn't me being a glazer, these are my actual feelings. When trying to put into words what it was about the premise that captured my interest so much, I think it had to do with the audience's introduction to a world that has a fantastical, almost mysterious component to it, but is treated as mundane by our cast. So you've got the woods that surrounds and isolates Fable Village having a major influence on everyday life, because under no circumstances is anyone allowed to be in there, but this strict law is viewed as a totally normal part of everyday life by the locals of Fable. And then before long, some additional lore about this mystery begins to unravel that's a surprise for both the audience and the character in the story who is already accustomed to the mystery. It's like M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, only without the stupid twist ending. So I feel like I should talk a little bit about 𝚤𝚘𝚎 just in case this is anyone's first time hearing about it. But I first created the main characters and had the concept for their story and existence all the way back in 2018, but it wasn't until December of last year when I applied for the Storyboard Volume 2 comic speedrun zine that I decided to take this idea I had in the back of my mind and craft it into a complete story from beginning to end. It's always a challenge for me to give a synopsis for this comic since it is so short, but the back cover blurb I wrote for it was, while on a date with her girlfriend, 15-year-old Isabella learns she possesses special powers no one else has. After tumultuous changes uproot her life, will Isabella choose to use her powers for good or evil? Currently, it's only available to read digitally as part of the zine, either on the web through AO3 or as a free download from itch.io, although I did print out a few physical copies as part of a video I uploaded on my channel that was both a review of a certain comic self-publishing company and a tutorial on how to prepare your comic book project for printing with said company. If you do choose to read the story, I'd love to hear what you think of it. The context behind this scene here is Nike has arrived in the Fable Inn after a long and ultimately disastrous job hunting session. Shortly after Nike places her order, a local named Blythe, who has placed an order for pickup, sees Nike for the first time and strikes up a conversation with her. This has nothing to do with anything, but I have names that I've given to most of my video game consoles, and by total coincidence, Blythe just so happens to be the name of my Switch. If by some chance you're curious, my 3DS XL is named Stella, my PS4 is named Luna, my PSP's name is Byakuya, my Xbox One's name is Justin, and my GameCube is named Silas. Now I'm realizing I don't have names for my Game Boy Advance SP or Wii U. For now, Antonio and Mark sound good unless I come up with something better. Who knows? So let's talk about what it is I'm drawing right now. Before I started on the page itself, I really wanted to lay out a quick thumbnail of what I wanted my version of it to look like. If my redraw was in the exact same composition as the original, I probably wouldn't have bothered with a thumbnail to begin with, but I did want to mix things up with the layout in a few ways, and specifically focused on the top and bottom rows of panels. I wanted to add what could be considered an additional panel to the top portion of the page by incorporating an object shot of the food Nike receives from the inn's bartender. I felt like it was important enough to warrant the extra focus since the food Nike receives is actually different from what she ordered. For the page's bottom section, my instincts led me to changing up the compositions of the final two panels, just because I noticed that the layouts for those last two panels of page 14 were extremely similar to the last two panels of the page that came right before it, page 13, and I wanted to add a little more variance. Not so fun fact, I had the screen recordings of me sketching this page intermingled with the footage I recorded of the sketching process for my Newberry and Cream the Rabbit speed paint, and during the time I was editing said speed paint, I kept having to check to make sure I didn't accidentally add clips from the Fable Forest redraw to the video. Even after the video was done and uploaded, I was still having anxiety that they slipped in there by mistake. Now originally I was going to make this scene in the next to last panel more detailed by adding in visual representations of what it is Blythe is referring to, so the food, fashion, and excitement that Reverie City has to offer. However, I came to realize that there was no way I could include all of these smaller micro panels and have them work in tandem with the speech bubbles I added, so instead what I did is add a cityscape background as a representation of Reverie. At first I was going to draw a background from scratch using some photo reference I took myself, but I couldn't find anything that I liked, so I just used the material I had already downloaded from the Clip Studio asset library in the past and freehanded in a sky tower, since that seems to be an important Reverie landmark that consistently appears in different versions of the manga, and I didn't want to leave that out. Little known fact about me, on my computer I have an entire collection of folders entirely dedicated to pictures and videos I've downloaded or taken myself of various items to be used as photo reference for art. What I was able to capture personally, I have well over 1,000 different references, not including the many pictures and videos that still need to be rescued from my old hard drives. I hold on to these files with the intent of using them to draw backgrounds and small objects for future comic projects. And the vast majority of 𝚖𝚘𝚎𝚎 backgrounds were drawn using photos I took of various places I've been to as a base. It was extremely rewarding to finally get a chance to use some of those photos, and I was hoping for an excuse to incorporate even more here in this page redraw, so I was kind of sad when I wasn't able to. My standards for a cool looking design are pretty low, so whenever I'm out and about, I'll take photos of just about anything, which has gotten me into a couple of sticky situations because my mind is so focused on using this footage for a comic project that it doesn't even cross my mind how other people seeing me with my phone out in certain locations will come to the conclusion that I'm preparing to commit a felony. On one occasion, I've received a friendly warning from a waiter at a diner, and during another instance was all but chased out of the bank by a security guard. Sometimes you have to be willing to pay a high price for your art. The moral of the story is, 1. When gathering photo reference from real-world locations, don't be suspicious. And 2. If you come across something online that leaves a lasting impression on you creatively, please make sure to keep some kind of record of it saved so you can access it whenever you want, even if you don't have online access. So download it to your phone or PC, stuck in a scrapbook, sewn inside the lining of a trench coat, anything, because you can't always rely on the internet to preserve these important files for you. I've lost count of how many times my heart has been broken by a cycle of finding a really cool artist whose work I'm absolutely obsessed with and whose gallery I visit constantly, but then something happens and they purge their account or delete it entirely, and I'm full of grief and regret that I didn't archive all of their original art had I known that it would disappear with no hope of retrieval. let's go back to talking about what's on screen again because I'm depressed. At some point during the sketching phase, I stumbled upon this lace brush I had downloaded that I thought would be perfect as the edge of 𝚘𝚒𝚒𝚐𝚜 jacket, so I used the brush to block the shapes in and freehanded them during the line art portion. Other than that, I stuck pretty closely with the layout of the original page and panels, although I did truncate 𝚘𝚒𝚒𝚑's dialogue in the last panel a tiny bit as a space-saving measure. It's a minor detail, but I couldn't resist making Nike an honorary Danganronpa protagonist and having her leaf ribbon react with her emotions. When it comes to my art and comic making progress, there are several tools I regularly use that are specific to Clip Studio, one of which being the 3D models that are available locally in the program, which, as you can see, I use to arrange the bar top, plus all of the food and silverware items, and to help me out with 𝚘𝚒𝚒𝚑's pose in the bottom panel. I could have sworn I already had a model for a glass cup available, but none were in the shape I needed, so because I didn't feel like downloading a new model, I improvised and used a pale model that's already available as a default material and extruded slightly to look closer to my reference image. The main draw with using 3D models for me is being able to keep multiple characters and objects in the same perspective, otherwise whatever I'm drawing tends to get flattened out or otherwise fall victim to feature creep. Another feature that has really spoiled me are the vector tools. I always ink my line art on a vector layer, and it really comes in handy when there are parts I have to erase or transform. Plus, if I'm not liking the width of my lines or the brush I use to ink, I can just hit Ctrl-A to select the entire layer, then go to the object selection tool on the sidebar and either play around with the change brush size setting or hop into the brush shape menu and select a completely different brush for everything in that layer to be drawn in, so long as it's a brush that I've already loaded in said menu. I use the brush shape trick the most with panel borders and speech bubbles, as I can choose a more textured brush that can make even default materials look hand-drawn and give it a less digital look, but sometimes it creates sharp overshoot edges that need to be cleaned up with an alpha mask. I do know that another way you can change the look of your panel borders that you generated with the frame tool is to turn off the make panel borders visible option and then draw the borders yourself on another layer with your brush of choice snapped to the panel's ruler, which admittedly is something I haven't tried before. Basically, I've been ruined by Clip Studio Paint and it has a chokehold on me in terms of art software I feel comfortable making serious projects on. Redrawing this page after coming from working on my own manga was a learning experience in a number of ways. The most apparent one being, I had so much more canvas real estate with Fable Forest Bakery compared to 𝚖𝚒𝚒𝚐𝚎. Because the zine limited each comic to a maximum of 10 pages, I was in a constant push and pull where I was trying to fit as many panels as I could into a single page without sacrificing the pacing or visual clarity, so when tackling this Fable Forest Bakery page, I could breathe a lot easier. Honestly, I kind of didn't know what to do with all that extra space at first. There were a few oddly specific differences I noticed in my approach to constructing pages compared to May's, one being that the manner in which May depicts her characters is almost exclusively diegetic. By that I mean the artwork visually represents scenes within her stories in a very literal way, whereas my instincts lead me towards symbolic artwork and visual gags to convey an emotional moment. For example, when constructing my redraw of this Fable Forest Bakery page, I of course knew from the beginning that I wanted to change the compositions of the bottom row of panels, and the most natural way to present the final panel in my point of view was to have 𝚘𝚒𝚒𝚑's words metaphorically piercing Nike like an arrow. As far as my own comic, there were a couple of pages in 𝚖𝚒𝚒𝚎 where I incorporated non-diegetic visuals, like the main splash artwork of Isabella on page 4, and the bottom left panel of page 5, which straight up has an Among Us reference included in it. It is meant to be taken literally. Another thing I've noticed when reading May's manga pages is how her line art weight is very consistent, while I try to vary the thickness depending on what I'm drawing. Emphasis on try to. I don't know how successful I actually am with that. This also gave me a newfound awareness of the challenge associated with trying to draw someone else's OC in a different style compared to drawing a character from an established media franchise, because in the latter case you'll probably find some examples of many different ways to draw the same character through fan art and the like, but with an OC, most of the art of the character is being provided by the creator of that character, who is drawing in their own style, so you really only have one source to work with in terms of how to draw that character. In this case, I was struggling a little bit trying to make Nike's bangs fit in my style since they're such a unique shape, and I hope it turned out alright. So yeah, this redraw taught me a lot. The main goal I had for this art project was to gain more practice making black and white manga style comics and learn from the mistakes I made when drawing 𝚖𝚒𝚒𝚎. Back when I was a teenager, during the planning phase for the various manga projects I had in development at the time, the part of the art process I was mostly anticipating was adding screen tones and special effects. Like, I'd be browsing online for art assets, find the screen tone pack, and think to myself, yes, I'm gonna make sure to write this scene for my book that will give me a reason to use this screen tone, and it's gonna look freaking awesome! I was so excited when I was finally able to tone 𝚖𝚒𝚐𝚎's pages that I think I may have ended up overdoing it and made the panel artwork less readable as a result. Make no mistake, I'm still a screen tone fiend and will continue to use it liberally every chance I have in my manga projects going forward, but I want to scale things back just a little bit and see if that makes an improvement, paying special attention to minimizing the shading on the faces, bodies, and eyes. And in the case of this redraw, compared to my 𝚖𝚒𝚐𝚎 pages, I think it did. Adding the screen tone to this redraw was a lot of fun, particularly with applying the texture to the bread and the super shoujo manga effect I sprang for with Blythe's panel on the bottom of the page. I made a duplicate for my line art I drew for that panel, rasterized the layer and added an edge effect to it, followed by a tone processing effect to turn the smooth gradients of the effect into those familiar tiny dots, added a sparkly screen tone to the effect using a clipping mask, and then filled in large areas of the line art with that same tone. I had a specific method of drawing black and white eyes when working on 𝚖𝚒𝚐𝚎, but I noticed that in the original Fable Forest Bakery manga, Blythe's eyes are rendered in a unique way compared to the rest of the cast, so later on I tried emulating that in my style using a gradient tone fill, since that seemed like a design quality specific to Blythe that I didn't want to skimp out on. When you're primarily a digital artist, it's important to keep in mind that many of the techniques you use are adaptations and evolutions of established methods for creating analog art, which obviously has a lot of limitations that don't exist in the digital realm. And if you take those limitations for granted, then it can sometimes detract from the quality of your work. In the case of screen toning, while it can be tempting to add granular details using the digital tools available to you like brushes and the 𝚘𝚒𝚐𝚕𝚒, I think it's important to keep in mind that traditionally, screen tone was painstakingly added by slicing into a sheet of adhesive for the blade and burnishing that to your pages. So it really wouldn't be practical to apply tone to such minuscule areas of your art when inks alone will suffice. So my takeaway is that regularly applying screen tone anywhere you can runs the risk of making your manga look more unrealistic. Because when you think of iconic professionally made manga from Japan, chances are you're thinking of a manga that was created with analog tools. And because serialized manga is generally created on a chapter per month schedule, with each chapter usually being 20 to 40 pages in length, it's counterintuitive to be sinking in that much money and time to be as detailed with the toning process. To be fair, I'm sure a major contributing factor in why I feel like the amount of screen tone I used for my comic was unnecessary is the specific designs of the main characters themselves, because Isabella has black hair and predominantly wears dark colored clothing, and Sable has a darker skin tone, so shading areas like their noses or the whites of their eyes was reducing the amount of contrast in their faces and messing with the visual clarity. Kind of going along with the theme of budgeting your time when creating manga, this video was a perfect way for me to see how much time it takes me to complete a single page. There's no way I could include the uncut speed paint for this video, and I'm sure the highlight cuts would be attempting to draw this pages, inducing enough nausea to last a lifetime for anyone who watches it, but suffice to say, after going through all the recorded footage, I estimate that this page took about 20 hours from start to finish. To be fair, a lot of that time was eaten up by pausing to look at references, browsing through my materials, and figuring out what tools I wanted to use, but still, that's an unreasonable amount of time to spend on this relatively simple page. Sketching thumbnails alone took me 20 minutes, which is not good. I think part of the reason why I'm so slow drawing manga pages is that compared to normal full color illustrations, I have significantly less experience and practice drawing legitimate comic pages, or at least any experience that's relevant. Before 𝚖𝚒𝚐𝚎, my last attempt at making a narrative comic that was more than just a vertical gag strip was more than a decade ago. Meanwhile, I've been drawing a large portfolio of illustrations on a pretty active basis over the past 3 years, and across that short amount of time, I was able to settle into a workflow that, at my current skill level, meets that balance I'm looking for of efficiency and quality, which is something I'm still trying to find in the realm of comic pages, and I haven't reached that same level of confidence there. My motive for learning exactly how long it takes me to complete a manga page is so I can have enough data to try out a software I learned about from one of my favorite artists, which automatically creates a schedule for you based on how long it takes you to complete each step of your manga and how much time you have to work on it. Planning and making schedules have become more and more important in my life as I've grown older, and considering how making comics and stories is such an integral part of my identity, this seems like such a perfect tool for me to use, and I want to be able to utilize it properly. As I've talked about in my Meet the Artist video, I have no less than 5 other one-shot comics that I have lined up on my project roadmap after 𝚘𝚘𝚎𝚎 was done, and working on each of these will definitely help me keep track of the time I spend drawing each page, and hopefully as I continue to grow and gain more confidence creating manga, I'll be able to streamline my process more and more. Even from the time I finished 𝚘𝚘𝚎𝚎 back in April, I discovered new techniques that I feel will level the quality of my art while also saving time, and I want to continue my pursuit of a manga artist 80%. For some reason, I've been struggling a lot trying to overcome this feeling of inertia I've been having about starting my next comic project, which made me wish for a short, low-stakes comic project that could warm me up before I move on to my next official story, and I think doing this page redraw was exactly what I needed to achieve that. So after making many off-screen adjustments to the page after I initially thought it was done, it's finally complete! Here's how it looks compared to the original version as drawn by May, and now all that's left to do is bring her over and show her the finished product. Alright, are you ready to see how your page turned out in my style?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. Ta-da!
Oh my goodness. Stop. That is so cute. Ah! Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness, Elle, you made it so beautiful. Oh, wow. Oh, that is so cool. All the detail in the food. Oh my gosh. Oh, and Blythe and Nike, they're just precious. They're so precious. Wow, I love the creative liberty and in the last panel too is super adorable.
Yeah,
that is so cute. I love how you did that. Yeah,
I really wanted to the ethereal style with that panel with Blythe and the cityscape for Reverie in the background. That's still something that I needed to practice with, but I had a panel similar to that in 𝚘𝚘𝚎𝚎, and other than that, this page is literally the second time that I've tried to draw kind of sparkly shoujo effect like that, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, for a practice with gorgeous. Getting that kind of specific emotion.
Yeah, I know. I love the way you captured all their emotions and oh my gosh, it's so cute. Because it's perfect. It's why would you move here? I just wanted to. Not really.
Not out of necessity because I'm financially insolvent or anything.
Yep. It was a choice at all. But the food is absolutely gorgeous. I seriously, I'm gonna have to learn from you a lot because there's gonna be a lot of food art in this manga, and I have a lot of studying and practicing to do. And I love how because the emotion in the first panel, because it's Blythe has sort of an unreadable expression, who's this girl, and then quickly into the oh hi, how are you, right into the very friendly sort of front.
I wasn't sure if I got the emotional crux of the first panel right. I wasn't sure if I was making it too serious or anything like that, but I'm glad to hear from you that I was able to portray that accurately, because that was something that I was worried about if I was kind of off base there. So that's very reassuring to hear.
No, it's almost even better than the original, just because you had the food, which is excellent because it's a food-based manga, or at least it's planned to be. It's going to be, but I just love how the food is highlighted first, and then she's kind of lifting her head up from the table, and Blythe's more. She's not she's more observatory right now. She's just kind of observing, and then before she introduces herself to Nike. I don't know. It's just kind of a unreadable emotion, just sort of observing. And then Nike is so cute in the no, I actually just moved here panel. She's just trying to be polite, but she's kind of going through an emotional breakdown.
Crying and eating bread buns.
Yes, exactly. The crying and eating the bread out. Yes, I just noticed that too. I'm so happy you noticed that. She just like picks up the whole bread and eats it. Like, this is so funny.
It's like the Nike version of the crying and eating pizza meme.
Yum, basically. Just like the fork, pick up the whole bread and just eat it. And oh my gosh, I've always wanted to live in Reverie City is so beautiful. And you got like just the most beautiful shot of the city there. And like her adorable little outfit. Well, I love like the lace detailing. I just love the detailing in their hair in general too. I could tell that's part of the love. That's part of the love that I can see that's like in this page and stuff. And I love how you notice like kind of the wispierness of Blythe's hair. I was sort of going for that, like it's like a little on the thinner side. It is like straight, but it's like kind of wispier a little bit. Her little stripes and her earrings. So cute. And I love all the detail you put in like the cafe in the background too. Like the table in the background and chair.
That was actually a screen tone that I downloaded. It was like part of a background pack, and it was like originally for like this very modern looking club, but I removed some of the line art to make it fit better with the aesthetic of the inn as seen in a previous page. And the thinness of Blythe's hair was like kind of a happy accident because it wasn't necessarily my intention to make her hair noticeably thinner than Nike's. It was just a matter of me following the references that I had on hand for the line art. So it's really cool that I was able to replicate this specific detail of her design.
Yeah. And just like the detail of like the panels too. I love how you're like very creative with the panel outline. And just the fact that you drew the food twice too, like that's obviously something that happens in manga that I'm gonna have to like really get used to and stuff. Because my style definitely is a lot like simpler. Not only just characters, I'm gonna have to like make like plot elements or like scene elements, like kind of be able to redraw them over and over and stuff. And that's just really cool.
I had a lot of fun shading those tomatoes.
They look really good. Like I would eat that. The food looks very appetizing. And a nice cold water, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do as well. And the texturing for the bread bun and making sure I got the shininess of the plate down. Like just trying to keep in mind all of those specific textures was important to me.
Yeah, I love the detail. It's so detailed. Like on the plate too, like I took a second look and I was like, wow, you're right. Even the plate is so like beautifully shaded. Well, that is so cool. Thank you so much for doing this collab with me. Oh my gosh, this was so fun.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for picking me up off the street so I could be in a video with you.
Not at all. You're a special guest. You're an esteemed guest.
Big thank you to 𝚤𝚘𝚎 for being on board with this collaborating. And if you're still in the mood to watch more manga redrawing goodness, you should head on over to her channel and see her process of redrawing a page from my manga and my raw reaction to seeing her version. This is the first time I've made a YouTube video with another artist since 2019, which was a year and a half before I rebranded my channel, and it definitely won't be the last. I know getting to make these videos with her definitely brought a smile to my face, and I hope it could do the same for you. Anyway, so you can watch the second half of our collab, it's time for me to shut this video down. Make sure to give boba cats some pats, snacks, and playtime before you log out, and head to the description of this video to find links for every other corner of cyberspace I'm on. If you're coming to my channel for the first time from 𝚤𝚘𝚎's video, I post new videos every 2 Tuesdays all about art and character design and storytelling, and I'd love to have your company on the channel. Thanks for letting me chat with you, and until next time, stay out of the woods.